Hey, it's Liberty, and it's that time of year again where I talk about all the books that are coming out in 2024 that I want to read. Now, most of these books are coming out in 2024. There is one where the latest book in a series is coming out this year, and I want to read the first one. I'm actually going to be checking at the start of next year how many of these I actually read, so I'm holding myself accountable. I've picked 10 titles. They are what you would expect: a lot of historical fiction, a lot of fantasy, a lot of thrillery crime stuff. If you enjoy this video, do give it a like and subscribe if you would like to. And if you want to buy me a cup of coffee or tea, the link is below. I'm going to get straight into it. First, I want to talk about 3 of my friends who have got books coming out this year, and I cannot wait to read all of them. My friend Betty's novel Sometime Punchline is coming out this summer. It is a second chance romance novel. 10 summers ago, Delphina had her heart broken in her hometown of Evergreen in New Jersey. She left the town that she grew up in and never looked back. She wanted to be, main character of her own life, get away from her deadbeat dad, start a new life, which she has been doing. She was living in New York, had a job doing stand-up comedy, using her life for material for her shows, and doing very well. She's put in the hours. She's landed a coveted spot at a comedy festival. Sadly, things go very wrong for her. She's forced to return to New Jersey. She has 45 days to create the perfect comedy set, but when she runs into Eddie, the boy who she left in her past, things get a little complicated. This novel celebrates all the kinds of love that we have in our lives. It celebrates the Jersey Shore, and I literally feel like I've been waiting for this book for years. Next up is my friend Anna's book, and it is something to be proud of. This is also coming out this summer. It is a YA novel, and it's all about Imogen and Ollie. Imogen is a chaotic bisexual, and her goal is to become a stand-up comedian and sort of show the world that they are wrong about the stereotypes that there are of autistic people in the world. She decides she's going to put on a fully accessible Pride Festival where everyone is welcome, and to do that, she enlists the help of Ollie, who's the openly gay captain of the football team. Ollie is initially hesitant because he's dealing with some family stuff at home, but Imogen is very passionate, and she persuades him and quite a few other people as well, including the head girl, a star baker, an artist, a bunch of musicians. The dream team is here to plan a great pride and fix the injustices, not only in their school, but as many as they can. I love found family. It's literally my favourite trope. If you've been watching my trope ranking video, you'll know it was my number one. It sounds like so much fun. I have been able to watch Anna go through this whole experience. It's just been such a privilege. I can't wait to read this. It's going to be better than Heartstopper. The last of my 3 friends releasing books this year is Lex, who has another YA novel coming out after Gwen and Art Are Not in Love, and this one is called Not for the Faint of Heart. Mariel is the granddaughter of Robin Hood. She's the new captain of the Merry Men. She is leading her first mission. This is crucial. She needs to prove herself. Her aim is to capture Old Rosie, who is a healer supposedly aiding the Sheriff of Nottingham. Unfortunately, they have ended up capturing Clem, who is Old Rosie's assistant, who's chatty, cheerful, curly-haired, freckled teenager. This event sparks not only an adventure, but a love story for the ages. Gwen and Art Are Not in Love was one of my favourite reads from last year. So good. And I have no doubts this is going to be just as good. These 3 are just so talented, and I'm very, very proud of them. So next up, I've got a crime novel, and this is the one that technically hasn't come out this year. It's coming out, the 4th book in the series, I think, is coming out this year. But the first one is The Word is Murder by Anthony Horowitz. I am very excited to read the series because I was an avid reader of the Alex Rider series when I was younger. I sadly never finished it because I kind of aged out of it and the series was going on for ages. But I knew that he wrote adult books, and so I've always been keen to sort of get to them at some point. This detective series is literally him fictionalizing himself as a Dr. Watson style sidekick. Literally, the character is called Anthony Horowitz. The Sherlock in this scenario is police detective Daniel Hawthorne, and he's a disgraced police detective. He's now a private investigator. He's rude, he's intelligent, he's the typical detective of the genre, apparently. He wanted a ghostwriter to document his life and cases, and he chooses Anthony Horowitz. This mystery they find themselves in revolves around the rich mother of a famous actor, Diana Cowper, who goes into a funeral parlour to sort of plan her own funeral, and then 6 hours later, she's found dead. Dead in her own home, strangled with a curtain cord. Horowitz gets drawn into the investigation, and the partnership between these two, both of them have their secrets. Next up on my list is The Burial Plot by Elizabeth MacNeil. Now, I have previously read The Doll Factory, and I really enjoyed it. This is another Gothic thriller which is set in the 19th century, specifically 1839. This time we are following two criminals, Bonnie and Crawford. They're sort of living by pulling off schemes and making money in potentially illegal ways, especially when the cemeteries are full, if you get my drift. It's a dangerous game. One day, Bonnie ends up standing in a pool of somebody else's blood, and now her time is up and she needs to disappear. So Crawford finds her a job as a lady's maid in this big house at the Thames, a house that is in mourning for their late mistress. Bonnie is getting to know the people in the household, from the eccentric Mr. Moncrief, who's obsessed with creating like the perfect mausoleum for his wife, to the daughter of the house, Sissy, who is obsessively writing love letters to herself from a mysterious lord. Bonnie begins to sort of really question what happened to Mrs. Moncrief and how far can she really trust her own friend. This ticks so many boxes for me. I love a 19th century historical fiction novel. If it's Gothic, even better. And I know I love the writing already, so made it on my list immediately. Next up is another historical fiction novel, and it is The Beholders by Hester Musson. This is also set in the 19th century, 1878 this time, and the novel starts with a young boy whose body has just been pulled from the Thames. It is suspected to be the body of a missing child of a widely admired Liberal Member of Parliament, Ralph Gethin. 4 months before the body is found, our main character Harriet has started working as a maid at Finton Hall, where she has ended up because she was escaping an unwanted betrothal in her home village. She sees this great country house, the lady of the house, Clara Gethin, who is captivating, erratic, and has a real hobby of singing in what is described as an unearthly way. Ralph is rarely at Finton Hall, and Harriet starts feeling sort of more and more uneasy about the house and its occupants and the furniture and objects that are around, which results in her playing detective to sort of find out what on earth is going on in the house and find something she does which changes everything for Harriet. This is a novel which is sort of all about power and intrigue and complicity. It's dark and thrilling, apparently very reminiscent of 19th century Gothic novels, which we have previously established that I love. A line that showed up repeatedly when I was sort of looking at this book online was, "Some houses are haunted by the living." Yeah, ticking many, many boxes. And next up is a sort of sci-fi novel, and it is The Ministry of Time by Callie-Anne Bradley. This is sort of giving Umbrella Academy vibes. This book is many things. It's a comedy, a romance, a comment on society, science fiction story. The Ministry of Time is an establishment that is doing something sort of incredibly experimental. Civil servants work as a sort of bridge where they bring expatriates back from the past to 2020's London. The relationship between Commander Graham Gore and his bridge starts professional and turns into something more. Together, they all sort of face the reality of the project that's brought them together, and he's adjusting to life in the 2020s, listening to Spotify, discovering all about political correctness. This book has a tagline which reads, "There are several ways to tell a story," which, immediately makes me think we're getting multiple versions of the same timeline or multiple mind-bending, timey-wimey stuff, which is very exciting. I normally fall on the fantasy side of sci-fi and fantasy, but I've been wanting to read more sci-fi for a while because, let's be honest, more of it is coming true. Next up is some fantasy. The Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faizal. I was having a look on the Waterstones website when I saw the phrase King Arthur meets Peaky Blinders with vampires, and immediately that drew my attention. I thought, yeah, I want to read that. This is a crime novel set in a dark fantasy world. Arthur runs a tea shop. That shop is sort of a front for an illegal blood house where local vampires come to find fresh blood. She's a criminal mastermind. She's a collector of secrets. When her tea shop comes under threat, she has to make a deal with a very attractive rival and some of the city's most notorious outcasts to save it. Her plan is to infiltrate the Aetherium, which is a secret vampire society. We have a heist, people. We have a heist. However, we are living in a traitor's era, so obviously not everyone in her crew is on her side. Arthur finds out that her simple heist is not so simple after all. There is a conspiracy fantasy happening which has potentially world-ending consequences. This is the first book in a fantasy duology. Word on the street is if you like Six of Crows, this will appeal to you, which is definitely me. Personally, I have not read anything vampire related apart from Dracula since I was a teenager. And so I'm really excited to see what this new generation of vampire fiction is going to bring to the table, because I know this is sort of a thing that's coming back now. Vampires are coming back around and have been for a while. So I've got another fantasy crime novel, which is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. I know that he is an author that people love. I've not read, I think it's the Foundry Side trilogy by him, something like that. We follow an eccentric detective and her sort of long-suffering assistant. Anna Dolabra has a reputation of being one of the best detectives in the Empire. Anna and her new assistant, Dinios, or Din, are called in to investigate the death of a high imperial officer in sort of this really opulent mansion of the city. A tree literally spontaneously erupted from his body. Weird deaths like this are not unheard of. The blood of the Leviathans does very odd things, especially at the border of the Empire, but this is weird and it's never been seen before. Din is what people call an engraver, so he's been magically altered to sort of have a photographic memory, essentially. So his role is to literally be Anna's eyes and ears and report back as Anna does not leave her house. She is far from conventional or traditional. While the two of them are making their way through the case, and they are doing a successful job, Din is also trying to work out Anna and keep his own secrets safe from her. Together they are beginning to uncover a scheme which could threaten the safety of the Empire itself. I love original fantasy worlds. I love the idea of crime set in a fantasy world. Like a detective novel, which, I mean, obviously there are a couple on here already. So I've seen this compared to Knives Out, which I loved. So that's another thing that kind of drew me to it. And finally, I've got some translated fiction to finish things off. And that is A Magical Girl Retires by Park Solyon. A 29-year-old woman is standing on the edge of a bridge in Seoul. She lost her job during the pandemic. She's depressed, drowning in credit card debt. Her attempt is interrupted by a girl dressed all in white, who is her guardian angel. She's been searching for like the greatest magical girl and is convinced that she has found her. Initially excited, our main character quickly gets frustrated by the difference between like what she thought being a magical girl was going to be like and the actual reality. It's a lot of hard work, not a lot of perk. This book sort of reimagines classic fairy tale tropes while also exploring real world challenges that a 29-year-old millennial faces, and the very real impact of climate change on top of that. There are things we all wrestle with, our purpose in the world, how to find meaning in our lives and wanting to do good. How do we do that? How do we do that when the world may not be here for much longer? It's sort of universal themes that we can all relate to. Apparently the translation has won awards. I read I Want to Die, But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki, and I know that Cursed Bunny was everywhere, so I'm excited to read this because yeah. So yeah, that was my list of the top 10 books that are coming out in 2024 that I'm excited to read. Thank you for watching. If there is a book that you are desperate to read that you think I'd like or you just want to shout about, do let me know. I hope everyone is having a good January. Happy reading.